Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Egidijus Kavaliauskas are set for a welterweight showdown this Saturday. This is a very good fight in an already stacked weekend of boxing. Ortiz is seen as one of the blue chip prospects at welterweight, and in my opinion, Kavaliauskas is a real danger man in the division. I have to admit, I've had quite a tough time picking a winner for this fight. Despite hearing his name for a couple of years now, I've only recently started watching Ortiz closely. And to be frank, my assessment of him is I'm impressed, but I'm not necessarily amazed. Ortiz is better, certainly better than the average prospect, and he fights with a level of maturity that you'd expect from a much more experienced fighter. He has a solid skill set, and he's also got a notorious 100% KO percentage. Kavaliauskas I'm a bit more familiar with. Back in 2019, I was actually very excited for the Crawford fight, and I felt that Kavaliauskas was a real banana skin for Bud Crawford. Despite being knocked down multiple times in that fight and eventually stopped in the 9th round, Kavaliauskas proved to be quite a handful for Crawford, and I felt that Crawford was legitimately knocked down in the 3rd, but didn't receive a count. I remember in the aftermath of that fight, many people were questioning whether Crawford was on the decline or starting to slide. But I think in reality, he was just in against someone who was a lot better than himself and the wider boxing establishment anticipated. Virgil Ortiz has only recently stepped up a level, and last time out he stopped Maurice Hooker, which is a decent victory. The fight ended in a little bit of a strange fashion, but I think Ortiz was undeniably in control of that fight, and I think he showed a lot. He did a decent job of working around the long jab of Maurice Hooker, and it certainly is long because Maurice Hooker at 5'10 or 5'11 has something like an 80-inch reach, which is freakish. Ortiz also applied some steady and effective pressure, and at times he was getting off some quite sharp front foot counters. Overall, a deeper assessment of Ortiz is that he's a less mature and less refined version of Kavaliauskas himself stylistically. When I look at Kavaliauskas, I see someone who is a very good all-round operator. He displays great athleticism and a true understanding of boxing fundamentals through the way he's able to control his whole body with ease. And that's in his mobility around the ring, but when you watch him engage with an opponent, you can see that his technique is good and he's very stable. He just has a rock solid foundation. He's able to control his body so well. He's got very strong physique, and you can tell that's where it comes from, as well as having experience of boxing technique and boxing drills and refining his technique over a number of years. So he's very strong, very athletic, understands boxing fundamentals. He also carries legitimate punching power in both hands, and more subtly, he has a very educated lead hand. Personally, I'd like to see him use it a bit more, but when he does, he uses it to good effect, and he has exceptional timing and rhythm, which you can often see when he times people with the left hand. You know, often you'll see him jab, and then when his opponent retaliates, he'll pull back and he'll land a left hook with that jab as well. It's not as common as you may think in boxing, but Kavaliauskas pulls it off with such proficiency. It's really quite impressive. To put it short, Ortiz has his work cut out for him, but has he bitten off more than he can chew? I don't think so. Being 10 years younger than Kavaliauskas, Ortiz has probably an edge in youth and energy on his side, and I do think he'll need those in abundance to keep himself in the fight. I can realistically see both men touching down in this fight, but I have a strong feeling that it'll go to points. I say this because I suspect that Kavaliauskas can take the power of Ortiz, and I suspect that Ortiz's guard will be tight enough to absorb the punishment that Kavaliauskas will inevitably dish out. I see this fight going to points, being a close one, but going to points. I suspect if it does go to points, I can only really see it going to Ortiz. I have to imagine that he's seen as the better investment. Not only is he young and undefeated, but he can also be marketed to the very proud Mexican market who, without fail, show up to support their fighters. So bearing that in mind, my official prediction for this fight is Virgil Ortiz on points, probably 7 rounds to 5, 8 rounds to 4, that kind of deal, in a good, close, entertaining fight. I just think that in a close fight, they're going to give it to Virgil Ortiz. I find it difficult to pick against Kavaliauskas because he is such a good fighter and I really enjoy watching him. But just my objective assessment of this fight, yeah, Virgil Ortiz on points. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. We've got a busy weekend of boxing ahead of us. I think we're in some good fights, so I'm looking forward to them. Hope you guys are. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.